All right, we are live. Let's go set up. Oh, goodness gracious, that was awful. We go get the setup right now. Hold on 1 second. For some odd reason, does not want to pick up my. What in the world are we doing? There we go. That should be working. Hold 1 second. It's being weird. Don't know why it's doing that. Hold 1 second. Of course, of course. Don't know why. This does not want to work. I have. It's on. I'm gonna just redo it again. I don't know why it wants to be messing up, but it does. I don't know why it's not want to work. Hold on a second. I'm sorry that we're having difficulty right now. Again, that's showing up. Why does it not want to work? Oh my goodness. Of course, of course, of course. Why does it want to mess up? I don't know. Again, my Eurocamera should be working. I don't know why it's not wanting to work. Oh well, it's just not want to work. That's perfectly fine. All right, so let's get into it. Obviously, this has been a very crazy free agency. Starting off mainly with the fact that you had their Max Crosby trade that happened on Friday, and then obviously on Tuesday is when you have where basically it gets taken down. Basically the Ravens back out of it, and that caused a whole bunch of kind of distraction for the fact that like there's a lot of moves that were made before that whole entire debacle. But it's very interesting to see the fallout from it. Obviously, like I said, we'll find out more information as it continues to go. But for right now, we're looking at something that's hasn't happened in a while. I think the last time it happened was probably like the Ryan Grant situation or whatnot, but never on this big of a scale. To have two first round picks pretty much be traded, all these roster moves being made before the signing day officially opens up, and then not even 24 hours before the signing day happens, you're quite literally going to have to figure out, okay, now on the Raiders standpoint, now you got Max Crosby back on the roster. Now you still have to try to figure out how you're going to try to move Max Crosby because you can technically still afford Max Crosby with all the moves he still made. However, Max Crosby probably does not want to be at the Raiders. So you're kind of hoping that you still have a good market to trade him because you want to get those picks back. Because in all likelihood, your mind was okay. I've got the 14th. I got the 14th pick. I got the 14th pick to add in with Mendoza, and then whatever that pick is going to be for the 2027 class, that's going to help you out as well when you sign all these free agencies. So again, it's going to be interesting to see what happens over the next. I'm gonna say the next 3 days. I don't know if a deal's gonna be made on Friday for the trade. I don't know if something else is gonna happen for the trade, but it should be interesting to see what happens. Now, going on to like past that, going past what the Ravens did, going on to what each team did. What I want to show in this kind of video is kind of going through and just showing like the roster moves that were made, tentatively what the depth chart would look like. Obviously, I'm going up based upon what ESPN says. Obviously, there are some that I've seen that I think there might be a little bit of some differences on, but like I said, it's not going to be that vast of a difference. I'm not going to give an overall view on the off season because I'll wait until the actual off season after the draft, after free agency is done, to really kind of dive deep into who I think had like the best kind of off season. But I will kind of say like if I like some of the moves or not. But again, I would love to hear what you have your comments below as well. If you agree with my assessment of some of these free moves, or do you think that I might not be there might be some that I might be underselling. So starting off, first of all, it's going to be in alphabetical order. So starting off is going to be the Arizona Cardinals. Now, the Arizona Cardinals, like I said, new head coach. Obviously, you don't want to make a lot of huge moves, considering that you're having to cut Kyler Murray. That's a big one. So obviously, that's cut into a lot of your cap space, but it needed to be done. So what are they actually able to do? Well, they got Isaac Ziamalo. I think this is how you say his name. Former Pittsburgh Steelers guard. I actually really like that for them because if you look at their offensive line right now, I like their left side. I really like their left side with Paris Johnson Jr. and Isaac. But overall, I do not like their offensive line, which I think they're going to very much heavily impact how they draft. With I think is a decent offensive line class. I think that certain positions, especially like later on in the draft, you might get finally a little diamond in the rough, a rotational player, which is honestly just something that Arizona needs at this point. Tyler Algier, I think is a great move as well. Like I said, you get 2 years, $12.25 million. So you can pair him up with obviously you have the recently drafted Trey Benson. That's entering his third year. So like I said, that was a second round pick out of Florida State. Then obviously you have James Conner. So like your running back room is pretty decent. You like the running back room. Obviously, like I said, there's injury concerns that you might have for James Conner and even Trey Benson at that point. But I do like that for Tyler Algier, kind of get himself in a different space because good and well he was never going to be a starter with Bijan Robinson being at Atlanta. The Roy Lopez deal, that's the one that I like the most out of any of these. So Roy Lopez going to the Cardinals. So if we're looking at here, we're looking at the Cardinals, okay? Cardinals depth chart. We got Roy Lopez paired with Walter Nolan III. Now, obviously, I liked Walter Nolan coming out last year. I think he showed some flashes. He's going to be asked to do a lot more in his second season. So with Walter Nolan compared with Roy Lopez, like I said, if you look at how he did last year, so I'm just going to kind of show you. Obviously, not a lot of stuff is going to show in the stat sheet, but it's taking a long time. But like I said, I like the fact that he is still he still has impact as it is. I mean, look at that. Like he had 2 sacks. He's like 312 pounds. He's more like an over run stuffer. He still had 2 sacks, which I mean is not asking a lot. But if you're looking for a guy who's going to be able to be like a steady, I would say like a steady presence, I like him. I mean, obviously last year was when he was with Detroit, but he was with Texans a couple years ago. From one of my Texans friends, that he loves Roy Lopez as well. So like I said, I think it's a decent move for the Cardinals. To get like a guy to compare with Walter Nolan. Kendrick Bourne, I'm okay on. Like I said, get 2 years, $10 million. More so like kind of like a depth piece in case like Michael Wilson goes down. Right now, your wide receiver core looks pretty decent. I mean, you got hoping that Marvin Harris Jr. makes his move in his third year. Michael Wilson, Obviously, Trey McBride. So Greg Dortch. So again, your wide receiver room looked really good. You just need to be able to find a quarterback. Speaking of quarterback, you got Gardner Minshew. Again, your quarterback room is just it's Gardner Minshew and it's Jacoby Brissett. I don't hate it. I think if you're Lafleur, obviously you're going to be looking at okay. Last year, Drew Pressing offense, you had a decent move. You had a decent move with Jacoby Brissett, where sometimes he looked good, sometimes he did decently, but it just was the fact that overall your team just wasn't very good. So maybe you're hoping that he can carry the ship one more time, and then in this very very vaunted um, quarterback class that should be coming up next year, we could be looking at potentially a top three team who could be looking for their future. So again, I like it for the Cardinals. You're like very very low contracts for your quarterback because you know good and well that you're going to be going after a quarterback next year, and then just this year, just be able to just kind of build up that team around them. The other ones I'm not really like too fond of. Like I said, I don't really care about Chad Rylander or Zonovan Knight. Like I said, not really. But um, some decent moves by the Atlanta, I said Atlanta Falcons, by the Arizona Cardinals. Now, sorry, Atlanta. Atlanta, um, obviously, this offseason has been dominated by the James Pierce Jr. news. I'm not going to go too far into it. I just want to say that it's unfortunate for his girlfriend's sake of what happened. I think that obviously everything comes with James Pierce Jr., where you traded for him. That first round pick you no longer have is because you traded for him, and now you may never see him play again for you. So from a fan side, obviously it's an embarrassment, and also it's unfortunate that building a roster wise, like you took a guy who now is probably no longer going to be on that team. So again, I'm not going to go too deep into it, but it is something that does need to be talked about. But going to the actual roster moves. So getting Jahan Dotson, I like that for getting a number two option. Like I said, obviously you need to improve that wide receiver group, which like I said I'll change this to be the Falcons depth chart. Obviously you needed to change that wide receiver depth chart because it was looking abysmal. So you bring in Jahad Dotson, you bring in Zacchaeus who had some pretty decent games for the Bears last year, came in clutch a little bit. So that's your two or your three because before then you had Drake London and then you had like David Sills who's okay and like not a lot of other else. So again, you desperately go after wide receiver. You don't have that much of draft capital, so it makes sense you kind of address it with I don't want to say bargain bin, but I would say that definitely like trying to make sure you just get as solid as you possibly can instead of going big. Now I really like the Nick Folk hire. Yes, 2 year, $9 million. Like I said, Nick Folk is old for sure. Absolutely is old. But you lost to Dan Gonzalez. He went to Miami, and so you're placing with Nick Folk, who dadgum near automatic. I mean, let me like I don't I know that some people are not paying attention to, especially teams that they don't really care about. But he's 41 years old. But I want to show you something right here. Okay, let me show you, especially the last 3 years. The last 3 years for Nick Folk has been amazing. So from 38, 39, 40, like I said, he just turned 41. It's been amazing for Nick Folk in a terrible situation because he hadn't been playing for great teams over the last couple of years. So look, from 2023 onward, so Tennessee, New York Giants. We're talking about 96%. Again, this is attempted field goals made. Okay, so 29 for 30, 21 for 22, 28 for 29. Again, I know we're not looking at a lot of 60 plus yarders. I mean, like there's like some 50 plus yard field goals. Even then, he's been like either daggone near perfect or only missed one. So again, what I'm saying is that it's a very impressive feat by someone who's very old, kicker who still got it, and you're going to be playing in a dome in Atlanta. So again, all you needed for Atlanta for the last couple of years is a solid kicking game. I mean, you wish you had it in Younghoe Koo, but unfortunately you didn't. But all you need is something solid, and now you do, Nick Folk. So honestly, like I said, I like it. I honestly, like I said, I would like y'all to keep Zane because I was thinking he did pretty good for y'all last year, but I think he even improved with Nick Folk. Jake Bailey's okay. Austin Hooper coming back to the Falcons, where I think that's where he started, if I remember correctly. He started there, and then you had him. Then he went to like the Browns. Then he went to the Patriots. Um, Cameron Thomas, I'm okay on. The Tua situation is interesting. Obviously, like I say, he's signed for the vet minimum. You won't have Penix for quite some time with him still recovering from the injury. Obviously, I don't think that Tua is a great quarterback anymore, but you have a guy who can throw left. You have a guy who obviously is a veteran. Hopefully, can help out Michael Penix as well. But if you're just looking at the quarterback situation, if you're a Falcons fan, you were just hoping and praying that Michael Penix is the guy. Because if he's not, you do not want to be rolling out for the majority of the season with Tua. If Michael Penix cannot beat out Tua, that's a huge concern. That is a very, very big concern. I think that he will. Obviously, I do like some aspects of Michael Penix. I'm not an absolute hater, being a Panthers fan, but it does kind of concern me a little bit. Some other moves I'm not really too fond of. Like I said, I already talked about the Zacchaeus, so I kind of like that. Now, I do like the Christian Harris move, but I am interested to see how that works. Like, obviously, they lose Caden Ellis, but they're able to bring in Christian Harris. I'm wondering if they're thinking he'll play more of the Caden Ellis role or he'll be more of a backup to Devon Diablo. I'm not quite sure there. But if I had to guess, I would assume that they would have Christian Harris be that Caden Ellis role, being a little more like a blitzing linebacker. Being able to franchise tag Kyle Pitts is also very, very good. I like that for them. Um, Baltimore. So, as I mentioned before, Baltimore did, in fact, back up that Max Crosby trade. That's going to be, goodness, that's going to cause a lot of problems around the league. And I'm very interested to see how that's going to happen for the next couple of years and seeing. I don't think there's going to be to the level where some people are trying to say like, oh, people are just going to like, not work with the Baltimore Ravens ever again. I don't think it did that much, but I do think that it's going to be um, where people are a little bit, like if I could trade with somebody else, maybe I trade with somebody else, but it's not going to be like super duper noticeable to guys. Obviously, they don't do Max Crosby. They get back those picks, which is incredibly important for them, but they do sign Trey Henderson, and obviously Trey Henderson has a massive, 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 massive hatred now for the Bengals for like the way that things went down. I really like the John Simpson move. I really like the John Simpson move because not only did you lose Linderbaum, not only were you going to lose Falele because he is absolute cheeks, but now you can still focus on a center in the draft. But you're not as concerned because now you have a guy like John Simpson who's a very solid guard to kind of help out your center along the way. Because like right now, like I said, you got Andrew Voorhees, and I got John Simpson, Roger Rosengarten, and Ryan Stanley. All four of those I really like. The depth, I'm not loving the depth. Center obviously needs to be improved upon. But if I'm the Ravens, I'm like, okay, I got for the most part my starters. I got four of my stars in the offensive line. All I really need to do is figure that center class. And honestly, like I said, I could see like a Jake Slaughter in the third round. Maybe they trade up in the third round to make sure they get him. But I guess he's someone like a Jake Slaughter. I don't know if Connor Lew would quite work for them, but that could possibly be a guy for them as well. But I'm an Auburn fan. I love Connor Lew. I think he's the best center, and he's going to make some team very, very happy. But if I'm thinking about the Ravens, I like those two picks. Jalen Hawkins is also a great signing. He played well last year. Obviously, you lost both of your starting both of your safeties that like were part of that rotation. Aloy Gilman, he went to the Chiefs. We'll talk about this in a second, and then Ardarius Washington also left. So now your safety room is very very small. But obviously the impact of Kyle Hamilton. Now you're bringing in Jalen Hawkins, who I think was a really solid guy last year. And so you're not as worried about that safety room because now you have obviously Malachi Starks, you have him, and now you have Kyle Hamilton. So you can still move Kyle Hamilton down the box if you want to, especially during like nickel packages or whatnot, or dime packages. So you still have some free will to be able to do what you want to do. Durham Smythe, I'm not really a big fan of him, but some of the retained. Obviously, bring back Tyler Huntley. That's huge because, like I said, you gotta have backup in case, like I said, Lamar does go down. Tyler Huntley has done well in the past. We're talking about a Pro Bowl quarterback over here. No, but like I think he's a decent re-sign to make sure that okay, we got a backup quarterback, for the future. 2-year deal. Don't have to worry about that for quite some time. Because I know they're going to try to re-sign Lamar. That's what there's been in talks about, trying to push that cap down the way. Because I don't know if you looked at the cap situation for the Baltimore Ravens. It is ridiculous. Actually, while we're at it, I know no one's in here right now. Hopefully you see on the rewatch. But I was looking at this the other day. The Ravens cap situation shows me exactly the reason why. I don't want to say the exact reason why, but one of the reasons why I don't blame them for wanting to back out and make sure they get their first round picks. Because right now, it is $54 million. Because obviously you don't have the Max Crosby deal. But let me show you the cap space and how the cap hit's working right now. So right now, it's 34.5 for Lamar. Not too bad, 29 years old. Wow, gosh, Lamar's 29 years old. Well, that's not too bad. 34, 32, 30. Those are your top three. Then let's go to 2027. Let's go to 2027. Let's see what the cap space is now. Free up a good chunk of cap space. So it's 46, but it's not as bad. Okay, so you have a little more wiggle room. Then again, that's a void year. So you still have to pay Lamar plus the $30 million by his age 31 year. So again, it's interesting. Like even then it'll be like 42 million in cap, and that's not even like it's kind of ridiculous. For instance, it's really ridiculous. Like this, his cap number for 2027 being 84 million is crazy, absolutely crazy. But it is what it is. Like I said, I don't know what the Ravens are going to be doing. I had already kind of come to the conclusion that they got Max Crosby, so now let's pivot. Now I'm like I don't know what they're going to do in the draft, so I'm still kind of mulling that one over for pick 14 because I kind of actually thought the Raiders have it. Well, they're probably going to do Switch Fond if he falls to them. All right, moving on to the Buffalo Bills. Now starting off with them, obviously, they traded for DJ Moore. That's a huge move. Getting him. Basically pairing him up with Khalil Shakir, with Josh Palmer. So now you have a 3 wide receiver trio that I actually kind of like. I like Josh Palmer. Obviously, I think he got hurt last year to kind of diminish what he was able to do. But you got Josh Palmer. You got Khalil Shakir, who's been really, really solid. I always get Khalil Shakir in fantasy. I just love him to death. But you have him and you have DJ Moore with Joe Brady, where Joe Brady worked his magic with DJ Moore, and also obviously we won't talk about Chosen Anderson, but he worked his magic with DJ Moore before. I would love to see what he's going to do with DJ Moore now. Obviously, DJ Moore is just 6 years after the fact, so obviously a lot of times it's changed. But you're bringing in a wide receiver, a proven wide receiver instead of what you could possibly get. So now you can kind of focus on other aspects of the draft at pick 26, especially for some of the depth that you need to have for the Buffalo Bills. Because I like some of the other moves. I like D. Alford. I think he's a really solid nickel for the Buffalo Bills because you did trade Taron Johnson. So like I said, we'll talk about that in just a second. Kyle Allen, I mean, he's Kyle Allen. Why I don't really I'm moved by that at all. Bradley Chubb is interesting. Obviously, him going from the Dolphins to the Bills is hilarious because there's been a lot of changes from the Bills to the Dolphins a lot where like people just go back and forth. But Bradley Chubb coming in, obviously the Bills are changing to a 3-4 kind of defense. So now you got Greg Rousseau, got Bradley Chubb being the edges. I like that. I like that as far as especially like for your run defense should be interesting. Hopefully you have that kind of pass rush. Um, I'm looking for that interior, seeing like Ed Oliver can flourish in a 3-4 scheme with people like Deion Walker who had a decent rookie season, honestly. So I'm interested to see how this Bills defense does, like moving to more of a 3-4. But I like the sign. Bringing back Connor McGovern is huge, huge because you did lose David Edwards, but able to retain your main guys, like I said, Dawson Knox, Connor McGovern. That's huge for the Bills. Like I said, trying to keep your Super Bowl window alive. Now moving on to the Carolina Panthers. Carolina Panthers. Obviously, as a Carolina Panthers fan myself, I am stoked, absolutely stoked. I don't want to go into too far detail because I'm going to be making a video later on. I'm trying to decide if I want to make it on Friday or Saturday of free agent moves for the Carolina Panthers to go into more detail how I feel like we can now attack the draft. But starting out, I mean, we get two of the top defensive free agents and I want to see what the cap numbers are, which is another reason why I'm kind of like waiting to make an actual video for the Panthers because getting Jalen Phillips, obviously the guarantee is only $80 million compared to what it says right now, where it says 4 years, 120. I hate those kind of contracts because it's not telling you exactly what it is, and everybody will see it be like, well, why you just pay Brian Burns that? And it's like, well, it's not the same as a contract, is it? No, not at all. So again, it's only $80 million guaranteed, so I want to see how like that cap is kind of spread out. If I know anything about Brent Tuss, it means that if by year 4 we could cut Jalen Phillips for some cap relief because that's what happened it's technically like with A'Shawn Robinson and also with Tershar Wharton and Bobby Brown is that's how they kind of have their contracts that were saying like a 2-year deal that's actually that instead of being a 3-year deal. So I wonder if like Jalen was more like a 3-year deal instead of being a true 4-year deal. We're able to kind of like cut him if need be. But love Jalen Phillips as far as being, yes, injuries can be a concern. Not getting the sacks, obviously, like it's a talking point. But if I'm looking for someone to just get pressure, because that's all we really need, we just need pressure. We already have a great cornerback duo. We already have a great interior defensive line, like defensive line with Derek Brown. If you are able to force the quarterback to step forward, where Derek Brown is able to wreak havoc in the middle of the field, please keep Jalen Phillips healthy. Because again, I'm hoping that Nick Scourton can also continue to get better. But like I said, maybe he takes his next step in his second year. Jalen Phillips added there too, and then you get the best linebacker with Devin Lloyd. Obviously, a big problem for us, and especially with our linebackers the last couple of years, has been in coverage. Devin Lloyd is by far the best pass coverage linebacker that we could have possibly gotten. Outside, obviously, like a Sonny Styles. But getting Devin Lloyd frees up big time to be able to just take best player available for the draft, which is great for us. You pair him with Trevor Wallace, or if you take a rookie and the rookie beats out Trevor Wallace, so you pair him, like I said, with a young guy. He's the leader of the defense. You pair him with, like I said, the front 4 that we're already building up with Derek Brown, Jalen Phillips, Nick Scourton, and whatnot. I'm loving what our defense is looking at right now. So again, the first two moves we made, absolutely outstanding. Now, I don't care for Kenny Pickett. I don't. But he's a backup for a reason. I don't care really what happens. I don't really care, If he stays for a year or if he gets re-signed, I don't think he will. In my mind, I would assume that he stays for a year, and then in the quarterback draft class that is 2027, somebody will fall, and we might take somebody then as like a developmental guy under Bryce, so that you could be able to kind of like get comp picks for. But I mean, that's like a lost art in itself. But I don't really care for Kenny Pickett. Now, Luke Fortner, that is an interesting pickup. I was very concerned about where a center situation would be like because we were losing both of them. Cade Mays going to the Lions. Austin Corbett, we're now bringing back Austin Corbett. He's been way too injured for us, though he has been decent when he's been playing. So, bringing in a guy like Luke Fortner, who is quite literally uh, technically better than Cade Mays. I mean, if we're looking at PFF stats, which obviously you can't go off of all the way. But if you're looking at how he played for the Saints, I like Luke Fortner as a stopgap where we're probably going to draft a center in this upcoming draft class, or just have Samak develop underneath him for one more year and see if Samak can be the center for next year because he's technically signed into next year. John Mechie, love that one as well. Obviously, played with Bryce. I'm an Auburn fan as well, so I very much remember the 2021 Iron Bowl where John Mechie won that game pretty much. I mean, Bryce definitely had a big hand in it, but John Mechie, obviously, he comes into the league for the Houston Texans, battling leukemia. That kind of takes away a lot of his development. He's a strong guy, like I said, coming back from cancer. Then he goes to the Jets. Obviously, the Jets situation is just horrible. I mean, like, you can talk about the fact, well, he only had 270 yards. Yeah. The leading wide receiver, Garrett Wilson, had 400 yards. So, again, that's not really like, a lot. So, I think 270 is actually not that bad when your leading wide receiver only had 400. But I like John Mechie as being right now, seeing him more like a wide receiver number 4. Maybe wide receiver number 5. But I think the people who are saying he's wide receiver number 3 right now is a lot of people just don't like Xavier Legette, which, like I said, I understand a little bit. I still have hope for him, hopefully. But I like John Mechie's signing. And then Stone Forsythe, he he's very much just a backup. Just a backup. I'm not looking at him being anything else. A lot of retained people are more so like practice squad guys, or people who were like, had to find a little role. Isaiah Simmons, like I said, they marked him as a linebacker. He was safety for us last year. So I'm assuming they're looking at him as maybe, okay, we'll bring back Isaiah Simmons for being our special team ace, but put him at linebacker, and he provides depth for us while he's still developing. Because one of the problems that he has said that he hates is that he was constantly moved around instead of sticking in a position to really be able to develop. So I am okay with him, going to linebacker as long as we keep him there instead of trying to go back and forth. And then Travis Gibson, we picked him up from the 49ers last year off the practice squad. He actually did pretty decent for us. So I don't hate bringing him back. Again, these Panthers moves, I really, really like them. I'm hoping that we are able to take the next step. I know that the main reason why we went after, obviously, Jalen Phillips and Devin Lloyd is because we feel like we're in our window right now, especially with Bryce Young still being on his rookie contract. So it doesn't surprise me at all. Now, the Chicago Bears. So obviously, they made a run last year, almost beat the Rams, and unfortunately, I said they did fall short. They are losing a lot of people. Now, I think they have done a decent job of the problems. Obviously, safety is a huge one. Like I said, losing Kevin Byard, he's gone. Still kind of don't know about Jaquan Brisker. There's a possibility to come back, but I don't know just yet. But bringing in Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant, obviously, like I said, had an amazing season for the Seattle Seahawks. Him coming up in 3 years, $40 million. Obviously, I don't know the exact contract, but love that for the Bears, bringing in a very, very solid safety. Devin Bush actually had a pretty decent year last year. Kind of surprising, honestly. And on one hand, I like the fact the Bears are looking for linebackers because, like I said, they cut a Tremaine Edmonds, trying to save some trying to save some cap space, but the linebackers got injured and they didn't have the depth. So if I'm the Bears, I'm looking at okay, I've in this linebacker draft class that should be should be pretty good. They're probably going to take two of them, if I guess. Based on what's been shown right here, they're not really taking it like anybody outside of really Devin Bush. Obviously, they can change in the next couple of days. Um, I could definitely see the Bears taking two linebackers in the draft next year. Gallimore doesn't really move me that much. Khalif Raymond, I really like that one because obviously Khalif Raymond worked with Ben Johnson for the Lions. Bringing in Joseph Wills, that's to be good competition because you did bring in Joseph Wills and also Braxton Jones, kind of competing for that left tackle position because obviously Darnell Wright has that position locked down for right tackle. And you're kind of waiting for Oz Trapilla to come back. But Street, I'm not that big on. Now, bringing in Garrett Bradbury, that's huge. That is huge because obviously Drew Dalman, he retires. That throws a wrench in your plans. But then you're like, hey, okay, we got projector of the year, Joe Tooney. And you bring in his college roommate, Garrett Bradbury, who had a really, really good year last year. Obviously, like I said, when he was at when Garrett Bradbury was at the Vikings, um, definitely did not do the way that I thought he was going to. Kind of flamed out there. But last year for the Patriots offensive line, I think he might only get like one sack, if I remember correctly, only one sack the whole entire year. Anchoring offensive line that obviously had its struggles, but he did really, really good. So again, I like Garrett Bradbury going to the Bears, going to an already stacked offensive line. Obviously, that left tackle position is a little bit concerning, but that interior with Darnell Wright on the right side, I really like that offensive line. And then re-sign Case Keenum. We were kind of like just bringing in their veteran option to kind of help out Caleb Williams. Like I said, besides that, I'm not really moved by any of the other ones. Bengals, not a lot, but bringing back Dalton Reisner is huge. You just need kind of offensive line help at all. I'm not the biggest fan of Brian Cook, former safety for the Chiefs, but bringing in Boye Mafe is so huge because one, you just gotta get some kind of pass rush, any kind of pass rush when you lose in Trey Hendrickson. And Boye Mafe was one of the top players, like as far as pressure rate. Same thing for Jalen Phillips. So get him 3 years, $60 million. Obviously, like I said, don't really know the exact numbers and the exact cap numbers, but bringing in him, desperately needed. Hopefully, he can like help with a pass rush where you're not really going to get that from Shamar Stewart unless he makes a massive leap in year two. So hopefully, Boye Mafe is not just double teamed the whole entire time because that would kind of suck. But as far as like the moves, I kind of like him. Obviously, like I said, I think Boye Mafe is not as good as Trey Hendrickson, but he's younger, and there's a possibility that they could be fine as far as like trying to replace him in the aggregate. Cleveland Browns, I don't really love the moves that much. I like Elgton Jenkins as a player. His injury concerns, like just knowing the Browns, this could be a great move. Having a very veteran center, having him be able to help out as far as when you have injuries. Elgton Jenkins can play pretty much every single position, but the injuries are a very big concern for Elgton Jenkins, and I don't love your depth. So if Elgton Jenkins goes down, unless the Browns miraculously come up with some great depth in this upcoming draft, I'm very concerned for really their quarterback, obviously, but also their offensive line. Because I don't know if you watch Zion Johnson, but he's not been good. 3 or $49 million is wild to me for Zion Johnson, unless I'm missing something. Quincy Williams, he's kind of fallen off a little bit. He was good at the Jets at one point. Bringing in Tyus Howard is actually pretty decent, I would say. Obviously, you look at Tyus Howard as being a Houston Texan. Can play offensive guard or tackle. If I had to guess, I'm thinking they're probably going to put him in that White Taylor role, like at guard, but I could be wrong. But honestly, like I said, they just need offensive line help in any kind of way they can. Uh, and then, like I said, bring it back. Tevin Jenkins and Ryan Hickman, like I said, not really moved the needle for me that much. Now we're on to Dallas. Now, Dallas, I don't know quite know. Hello, Parker. How you doing? How you doing? Dallas, I'm trying to understand where Jerry Jones is coming from because like obviously he want to make some moves. He wants to say that like he's like trying to uh, make a push this year, but how are you making a push this year if you're trading Osa Odigizua? That makes no sense for me. They traded him for a third round pick. A third round pick. And you trade him to one of your biggest rivals in the 49ers. Again, I don't understand the vision. Initially, I was like, well, maybe I can understand it. Like they're probably going to trade Kenny Clark, or they might trade. Like I said, I don't know. I didn't think they would trade Adigazua, but I know they weren't going to trade Quinn Williams. They just traded for him. So I don't understand what they're doing. Sorry, I had to take a little swig. I don't know what they're doing. Um, Obviously, they're in talks with a trading for possibly Max Crosby. Like I said, I don't know. They traded for Rashawn Gary, which I think is a mistake. So trade for Rashawn Gary. They bring in Sam Howell. They bring in PJ Locke, who I think is a decent safety. And they also just need safety help, so they have Jalen Thompson and PJ Locke. Jalen Thompson has been, I would say, he's been a good compliment in Arizona, but I'm not like wowed by him. But it's still better, hopefully better safety play than what they're used to. But I don't love who they signed. I'm not a big fan of Rashawn Gary right now. Hopefully, he proves me wrong. But at least they're to retain some people. Like I said, giving the franchise tag to George Pickens. I don't know when they're planning on re-signing him, but you definitely need to start looking at that because if George Pickens plays on the franchise tag and he balls out again, he will have back-to-back years of putting up monster numbers. And if you're the Cowboys, you cannot afford him at that point. You might be able to afford him right now, but if he has back-to-back good years like you're expecting, you will not be able to afford him. Brandon Aubrey, like I said, he is hoping to get a better deal. He's not going to. And then, like I said, I'm not really a big believer in any other three. So again, Cowboys not really stoked about. Denver Broncos definitely not. Obviously, they're taking the approach as far as just retaining a lot of the talent instead of signing outside. I think J.K. back, like I said, he's pretty good for them. Pairing him up with R.J. Harvey. Bringing back Justice Renard and also Alex Singleton, so it gives them a little bit of continuity from a linebacker's perspective. You did, cut Dre Greenlaw, which is an interesting move in itself because you just signed him. Adam Trotman, like I said, he comes in being retained for 3 years. I know that he's really well loved by Sean Payton. And the rest, like I said, Sam Ellinger and also Adam Prentice is not really going to move the needle for me. So again, the Broncos, I don't really care that much about it. Now, Detroit Lions, obviously not big spenders, but I do like the moves they have made. Like I said, they did trade to get Drew Scruggs. Not a big fan of Drew Scruggs, but I don't mind them trying to get off the cap hit of Dan Montgomery when they're already going to be paying Jahmyr Gibbs this offseason. Maybe it's next offseason, but for sure, sometime during the season, Jahmyr Gibbs about to get the absolute bag. So, while your window's still open, you try to make sure you kind of fill your holes, and you go for Caden Mays. I love Caden Mays. I would have loved for us to bring him back. I understand why we didn't, because our offensive line is already expensive as it is without having to account for we're going to be paying Ikem Ekwonu next year. So I understand why we're trying to go cheaper for a center position, but love Caden Mays. Hope he does well for the Lions. I think Rocky Sin is okay corner, special. Not a big fan of either of like the Teddy Bridgewater or Larry Bourne signing, but Isaiah Pacheco obviously has hit a little bit of a rough patch since his first 2 years for the Chiefs. But if you're looking for somebody to kind of help spell for Jahmyr Gibbs, obviously not as effective as Dan Montgomery, but still be a power back to help out, take some of the load off of Jahmyr Gibbs. I do like that trade. And then we're telling Malcolm Rodriguez. I like Malcolm Rodriguez. Loved him when he came out of Oklahoma State. But I mean, it's not like a needle mover. But again, I think it's decent enough signings for the Lions. Green Bay. Now, obviously, Green Bay is in the second year of that Michael Parsons trade, so you don't have your first round pick. But you're looking right now and you're saying, okay, well, we've got to vastly improve our linebacker room because a lot of Packers fans wanted Quay Walker gone, and he definitely got paid, and he went to like I said, went to the Raiders. But before then, they were able to actually trade Zaire Franklin, trade for Zaire Franklin, and just giving up Colby Wood. Now, I love Colby Wood, and I'll talk about that more so for the Indianapolis Colts. But bringing in Zaire Franklin, a very veteran presence with your young Edgerrin Cooper, both great linebackers. You need great linebacker play, and also Zaire Franklin is not going to do some of the Quay Walker things where Quay Walker, I will say, I don't think he did last year, but he has done it in years past where he has absolutely almost ruined the game because he, couldn't have a cool head. So, I understand there's some Packers fans who are upset about that, but let's look at who they actually signed. Javon Hargrave. Now, he is getting paid handsomely by the Vikings because of the whole entire situation with the former Vikings GM who signed him. Again, when he got fired, I kind of figured that one of them was going to be gone, either him or Jonathan Allen, and Javon Hargrave just has the person to get fired. He really wasn't the best for the Vikings, so I don't know how he's going to do for the Packers, so I don't really love it. Benjamin St. Juste, you're kind of just hoping that he takes his, there's a 2023 form where he did pretty decently. I don't know. He's had a very up and down kind of year as career, so you're kind of hoping that maybe under Jonathan Gannon, he's going to be able to, do a lot better. I just don't believe it. And they actually bring in Sky Moore, like I say, if you watched some 49ers games, he actually has a pretty decent return. So, again, I actually like that for the Green Bay Packers because their specialty has been kind of bad last couple of years. They haven't had a punt returner, and they actually go for a punt returner. Like I said, we're talking about Zaire Franklin. They retained. I think they try to jump ahead of some of the center market by re-signing Sean Ryan. Obviously, it does look kind of bad because he doesn't have any starts. But if you're only paying Sean Ryan $11 million, at even not really even at that, because like I said, the money is kind of finicky compared to what Leonard Baum and what Creed Humphrey and what everybody else is going to be paying soon for some of these centers. I don't hate it at all. I think Sean Ryan is pretty good center who can also move all across the offensive line. So he's basically going to be your Elton Jenkins replacement. Chris Brooks, I'm okay with. Darren Kennard, not super high on a guard out of Kentucky. And all the ones I like Jonathan Ford, but that's about it. That's the only other ones I don't really care that much about. So again, I'm not crazy about Green Bay's free agency, and I will say this: obviously, there's still some moves to be made, but this is not going to be outside of some moves that have been made. There's not going to be a lot of A+ free agency moves like what's happened in the past when I've kind of broken down free agency. Houston Texans, I do like Reed Blankenship. I will say it kind of surprises me. To me, I think that this makes sense if you're looking at, okay, we want to play Jalen Petrie more so in the box. We'll have Reed Blankenship still be on the field. And you still have the talented safety class that you just drafted. So Caleb Bullock and whatnot. So you're kind of thinking hey, they'll be able to develop with Reed Blankenship, have Jalen Petrie more so in the box, around the box, and just kind of have Reed Blankenship make sure no one to kind of take the top off. So I kind of like that. Bringing in Braden Smith as well after you re-signed Trenton Brown. That's huge for your offensive line. Again, at this rate, you just got to find somehow, some way to build an offensive line that you're able to help out C.J. Stroud, and then hopefully also help out David Montgomery, who you traded for. So again, trade for David Montgomery is huge. It is huge for Texas because they needed a good running back. Um, for a second there, we thought it was Joe Mixon, and then it definitely was not. Woody Morris is decent, but I think he's more of a complementary piece, so having him paired with David Montgomery is huge. I'm not a big Logan Hall fan, but him leaving the Buccaneers is, great in some sense. And then Foster Moreau is a decent tight end that you're able to pair with Dalton Schultz in those two tight end sets. So not like, super moved by it, but I'm okay with it. And then, like I said, retained. Obviously, they re-signed Danielle Hunter for a 1-year extension, so he's going to be with the team even through the 2027 season. Bringing back Eddie Ingram is huge. That was one of the ones that we were trying to make sure that happened because he is excellent run blocker. Pass protection obviously needs to kind of work on, but paying him 3 years, $37 million, not too bad. Bringing back Kymie Fairbairn being the highest paid, he deserves it. Again, I talk about Nick Folk. Kymie is up there with him. Again, bringing in Trent Brown again to be more of a swing tackle, that's huge as well because you need depth at this point. Not only do you need a great starter, but you just need depth, honestly, because if one person goes down, it can pretty much ruin your season. And then bringing in back Shelton Rank because I like that move as well for your defensive line. Because again, you have a great defensive line. All you really need to do is make sure that you keep up with, like I said, the constant interior pressure. Because you're going to get from the edge. You already know you're going to get from the edge. All you got to do is make sure that you have the defensive tackles that can capitalize on forcing the quarterback to step up. Colts. Oh gosh, Colts are a fascinating team to be watching. On the one hand, obviously, I like Alec Pierce. I really do. Now, I don't know if I like him for the price that you paid for him, but I mean, you're able to bring him back, and he knows your system, so that's a plus for sure. The Daniel Jones situation, that's wild. Like 2 years, $88 million, up to 100 million, and it's technically only 60 million guaranteed. Again, I think that's great for Daniel Jones. This is basically just telling the Colts like, hey, we understand the situation here that Daniel Jones is not going to be playing for most of the season next year, but hey, we already went all in our push to try to get even a playoff win, and I'm not blaming it for it. Blake Grupe, I think he's been solid for the Saints, but again, I'm not moved by Michael Clemens, and I think Aaron Key is a fine pass rusher. He's a pretty good run defender, but I think he's an okay pass rusher. But he's basically the Kwity Paye replacement. So you got Kwity Paye and then Latu, and you're hoping that hey, the Colts can please just do what you're supposed to be doing. And again, some of the Colby Wooden. I love Colby Wooden. I'm an Auburn fan. I always love my Auburn players. But Colby Wooden was a great rotational piece for the Packers. If you watched a lot of Packers game like I did because the Packers were in primetime last, so I streamed a lot of the Packers game. I'm looking for Colby Wooden because, I like to see how the Auburn players are doing. But he also showed up a lot. Like I said, getting a lot of pressures. I mean, you watch some of these bigger games. He's getting pressure on third down. So if you're looking at, okay, I've got my 2 starting defense tackles. That's not going to change. But if you're looking for rotational, you're looking for more so of a pass rusher on third down to kind of replace Grover Stewart. I love Colby Wood in that role. So again, if I'm looking at it from the sense of Colby Wooden being a pass rushing 3 technique paired with obviously DeForest Buckner, who's an outstanding talent, but just being kind of a rotational piece, I love that trade for them because again, I know they're probably thinking about trying to get rid of Zaire Franklin because I said probably a cap situation. They get a great player in return that they know is a great player instead of just hoping and praying that person falls to them. Because Colby Wood was a 4th round pick if I remember correctly. So Jacksonville Jaguars. Obviously don't really have the cap space to do a lot. They bring back Monteric Brown. 3 or 33 million. Obviously, don't know the exact money wise. I'm not really moved by that. And then bringing in Chris Rodriguez Jr. to basically be the complement to Bayshaw Tootin. I'm not very moved by that either. Jacksonville, I am hoping that they don't next year go back to what they have been having before, where I may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure Jacksonville and the Panthers both in the same situation where, as a franchise, we have never had back-to-back winning seasons. Never had back-to-back winning seasons. So I might be wrong on that one, but I know for sure the Panthers have it. So it doesn't look great for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think it can still be competing, but you're hoping that the talent that you're letting walk is not going to be the detriment to your team. So hopefully Bayshaw Tootin can deliver, but I'm not feeling it right now. Moving on to Kansas City Chiefs. I know before I was showing like all the different kind of depth charts, but I'm kind of trying to go through this and make sure it's not going to be a 2-hour show. Right now it's going on almost an hour. Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously, the big one is Kenneth Walker. Finally, the Chiefs have a great running back. It's been a while. Pretty much been like the first stint of Kareem Hunt before he left. Since they had an actual, I think 1,000-yard rusher since like 2017, which is kind of crazy. So Kenneth Walker not having to share a backfield is great for him. He's going to be behind a great interior offensive line. I said, well, I mean, I think their whole entire offensive line can be good because I think Josh Simmons is a great talent. You're kind of hoping the Moore, I can't forget his first name, but Moore, the tackle they signed from the 49ers, hoping that he develops into a decent right tackle. They just released Jawan Taylor, which kind of makes sense because Jawan Taylor is awful, and also is going to free up like $20 billion cap space, so it kind of makes sense. But they bring in Aloy Gilman from safety from the Ravens. That's huge. They just lost Brian Cook, so you have to kind of replace that safety, and I have to worry about that. Aloy Gilman was great for not only the Chargers, but also the Ravens for this past year. Chris Tonga, I'm okay with Chris Tonga. I think that he's a pretty decent defensive tackle, obviously from the Patriots last year. Chiefs need help on the interior, mainly for like a run defense set, because they need pass rush help too, but I think that's going to be more so with the Omar Norman Lott, their second round pick out of last year. I'm really hoping he stays healthy, so we can kind of see what he's got. Because if you're the Chiefs, you need some kind of pressure outside of Chris Jones. If it's from the interior, that's fine, but you need some kind of pressure. And unfortunately, it's not being George Karlaftis. Or even the one they drafted when they were in Kansas City. I remember liking him at Kansas State. It's like Uzama. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Felix Uzama Federic. No, it's like Felix Uzama something else. Anyways, unfortunately, he hasn't quite worked out. But they did retain Tyquan Thornton, who was great for them, great deep threat. Had a couple of games, actually, where he did really come good. And obviously, Trev Scott's coming back for one last ride. Vegas Raiders. Oh, man. What's to talk about the Vegas Raiders? Hello, Daniel. How you doing? Man. As already mentioned, the Raiders are in an interesting spot with that Max Crosby deal. Obviously, the assumption is that he's still going to be traded. When that will be, one will know probably the next 3 or so days. If I had to guess, it probably gets done between Friday and Saturday. It might be one of those Friday news kind of things that pops up like that late Friday, and then people talk about it for the remainder of like the 3-hour period from like 3 to 6, something like that. But Raiders right now, outside of the whole Max Crosby situation, amazing free agency. One, trading for Teron Johnson. I think Teron Johnson has had some injuries, but besides that, it's been really great for the Bills. I mean, Tyler Linderbaum, outstanding center. Now, is he worth the money they're spending? I think it's a lot of money, but again, they have money to spare, so I don't think really money is a problem. Plus, You have peace of mind. You have by far the best center, or one of the top two centers in the league. You can argue between him and Creed Humphrey. And now you have a rookie QB who now is reliant and doesn't have to worry that much about the interior, because now I still worry about the tackle situation outside Colt Miller. But if you're looking at Tyler Linderbaum and also Jackson Powers Johnson, I like that interior. I like Colton Miller, and like I said, you can be able to hopefully in the second round get another tackle, because you're not getting the first round, because unfortunately you're not getting the first round pick from the Ravens. Now, if you do still trade Max Crosby, he'll still be in play for a tackle in the first round, but who knows? Outside of that, you got Kwity Paye. Just talk about that in just a second. With the Colts, him leaving, I am not the biggest fan of Kwity Paye. I think he's okay, but I'm not like, oh, Kwity Paye, yay. I like Michael Coots a lot better, who's on the Raiders already. But the linebacker duo of Quay Walker and Nakobe Dean, both Georgia linebackers, played together. Great pairing. Love that. Love it for the Raiders, because not only do they already have the chemistry together, but great linebacker play is huge. Huge for your team. Because one is to lead your defense, and two, with two athletic and gifted linebackers, such as Nakobe Dean and Quay Walker, there's a lot of things you can do as a defense. Jalen Nailor, I think, has been a solid number 3 option for the Vikings. I don't know how he will be with more attention on him. I'm not very confident with that. But Matt Gay, I'm not really also that big. I don't know why they bring him in, obviously, because you have Legatron, you have Daniel Carlson, so I don't know why you bring in Matt Gay, but it is what it is. Retaining, bringing back Eric Stokes. Not big fan of Eric Stokes. Like I said, I like Michael Coots, though. And that's pretty much it. Again, I think they had a great free agency. I'm not like in love with it, as some people are, but I think that's decent. Chargers. Todd Biadasz. That's a huge one. You have got to fix that interior. Start for the center, Todd Biadasz, and then probably in the draft, you get a guard. We're looking pretty good, because as much as I don't really like Cole Strange, he fits the system. So again, you got bookend tackles, you got your Todd Biadasz, your center, you got a guard who definitely knows your system and fits your system for Mike McDaniel. You're probably going to try to find a guard to be able to, a rookie guard to come in and hopefully have an impact as well. Troy Kolar, I think he's a great tight end. Obviously, like I said, former Ravens, obviously has some kind of connection with the Harbaughs. And they bring in Alec Ingold. Again, Alec Ingold worked with McDaniel for a long time, so it does not surprise me at all that he wants to come to the Chargers. Now, the retaining ones. Khalil Mack, huge. Kyle Vidal and also Jarrett Patterson, I think, are also huge too, because again, you need running back room. But I really like bringing back Trey Pipkins. And the reason why I'm saying is because when both tackles went down, Trey Pipkins didn't do that half bad of a job. Obviously, nowhere near as good as the other two, for sure. But if we're looking at hoping and praying that they don't get injured again, but now we have a peace of mind that if they do, that, hey, Trey Pipkins was okay, I like that. I like having that. And also, like I said, obviously Tar is good too. I didn't mention that before, but I love Tar as well. Great run stuffer for the Chargers. Rams, we already know this. They are going all in. That number 13 pick is going to be Mekhi Lemon. I'm booking it right now. It's going to happen. Just prepare for it. But a trade for Trey McDuffie. Trey McDuffie obviously is one of the top cornerbacks in the league. Him going to the Rams is huge because obviously you watch the Rams. If you haven't watched the Rams this season, I don't know what you're doing. But it is very apparent when you watch that team that they have a big hole. And what is that big hole? That is cornerback. So if I'm the Rams, I'm looking at like, okay, I need to get me a quarterback. Now they could have thought, hey, at pick 13, I can get my pick of Marcel Delane, or I can get Jamal McCoy. In my mind, they must have had some pretty good intel that neither one of those people were going to be falling to them at 13. They're like, We cannot go another season without having a shutdown corner. So that's probably the reason why they pulled the trigger, try to get Trent McDuffie. And now, not only do they have Trent McDuffie, but then they were like, hey, Chiefs, can we get the other guy, Jalen Watson? So they get both Jalen Watson and also Trent McDuffie. Great cornerback duo for them to have, paired with a great secondary, paired with a great pass rush. So again, loves for the Rams. They desperately needed it. I'm going to love to see how Chris Shula utilizes Trent McDuffie because I think that's going to be huge because if you're really looking at it, since, what would you say, probably, I don't even think Chris Shula was there like early set Jalen Ramsey, but like it's been a while since the Rams have had like an actual shutdown corner, like a true shutdown corner. So again, love that for the Rams. And then obviously I said retaining Cameron Curl. I said the secondary is great. Cameron Curl, Cameron Kitchens, love them to death. And Tyler Higbee, I said, is a pretty solid option. Miami. So Miami's got a lot of weird things they got to do. Obviously, had to cut Tua. That cut into the cap space. Obviously, the whole entire situation with Tyreek Hill, that's a whole other situation. But you got a new regime. So you got new head coach. You got a new GM. You're looking at this and you're like, all right, well, what do we want to do? Well, we don't want to look like we're absolutely horrid. So how about let's focus on quarterback? Okay, we'll just cut Tua. So we're going to get. Well, we just worked with the Packers. Who we're going to get? Oh, let's go get Malik Willis. Again, I don't hate Malik Willis. I like Malik Willis. Started out at Auburn. Loved him there. Then goes on to Liberty. I am very concerned that with the offensive struggles with the Dolphins, that's going to be kind of rough for him. Again, I'm hoping the best for him. I like Malik Willis. But you can only do so much with a bad offensive line. I had got to take a little swig. So again, a little concerned by that. I like Zane Gonzalez, so like that's a good replacement for Jason Myers. Not Jason Myers, sorry, Jason Sanders. Josh Uche is okay. Lonnie Jr. is just okay. Again, a lot of these are more so just stop gaps. I'm really thinking about it because obviously the Dolphins are in a rebuild. They're not in a retooling. They're not in a reloading. They are in a rebuild. So signing one-year deal is perfectly understandable. Bringing back Greg Dulcich, I think he's fine. He hasn't really been not doing anything that much. Willie Gay, I think, is okay. But again, we're not going to be super impressed by any of these things. I think Malik Willis is a good bridge quarterback. Just kind of like build the team around it. Hopefully, maybe by year 3, you're a pretty decent team. Who knows? Again, I'm not loving it. Not loving it too much. Now, Vikings. It's a lot of trying to retain a lot of the players you have, moving some stuff around. But again, it's not looking the greatest. Because I mean, we're looking at right now. You only signed James Pierre, who's, I mean, that's okay. But you bring back Eric Wilson, which I think is fine. Like I said, Eric Wilson did pretty good. Obviously, if I remember correctly, he kind of took over Ivan Pace Jr.'s spot. Speaking of Ivan Pace Jr. right here as well. Jalen Redmond. I like Jalen Redmond. Actually was on the Panthers practice squad for a second. And then we let him go. He vastly outperformed Javon Hargrave, which you decided to cut, which makes sense. And then you're able to re-sign, re-sign Aaron Jones, kind of rework his deal. So he was able to kind of stay on the roster, which is good for him. But again, if I'm looking at this Vikings moves, I'm not loving it at all. The Patriots, let's see here. Patriots, huge deals. Huge deals. Back-to-back seasons where they're going all in or trying to go all in. Offensive line help. Well, guess what? You're going to have Elijah Vera Tucker. So you can kick Jarrett Wilson back in at center because you traded Garrett Bradbury away. So hopefully that kind of helps out Jarrett Wilson by him sticking at center, by him playing his natural position. And Elijah Vera Tucker should help him out as long as they stay healthy. That's the key. As long as you stay healthy, hopefully that'll work out. Draymond Jones, I'm not the biggest fan of Draymond Jones. I used to be, but then I woke up and I was like, I mean, he might be good. I might not be. I might be wrong on this one. I don't know, but I'm just not feeling the best with it. Now, Romeo Dobbs. I love this move. One, obviously, Romeo Dobbs. Hopefully, he stays healthy. But if he stays healthy, Romeo Dobbs in a system with the Patriots with another year of development that Drake May is having. I like this move for Romeo Dobbs because again, I think that he in the system that Josh McDaniels runs, he's going to play the Stephon Diggs role, and he's going to do it great with flying colors. Again, working over the middle. You have Kayshon Boutte deep. So again, you're looking really good right now. So again, I like those three. I mean, Jerry Jones is okay, but I'm not really moved by it. Reggie Gillum, I'm not super duper thrilled about it. I guess a fullback, but it is what it is. Now, getting Kevin Byard, that's great. Like I said, you lost a safety, but you're replacing with a great safety. Now, obviously, 1 year deal as a veteran, but again, guy who's kind of trying to ring chase. I mean, I think he technically got a ring with the Eagles, so he already has a ring, but still. Bringing KJ Britt, that's like a great depth piece. And then other ones I'm really moved by. Tommy DeVito, like I said, bringing him for a backup, that's fine as well. Again, not really anything outside like the Romeo Dobbs. Elijah Vera Tucker's really moved me on. Again, I like that, but overall, really great. One of the better ones. Again, there's not going to be a lot of big, like high grades for me for some of these free agency classes. Saints. Man, I was hoping they wouldn't make any smart moves, but I think they are. I like David Edwards, and the fact the Saints got him, I'm very upset with because I think that it's going to be a great move for them. Because now your offensive line looks pretty daggone solid as long as everybody stays healthy. That's a key word. As long as everyone stays healthy, I think this is going to be a great offensive line. Travis Etienne is an underrated running back who I think the Leopard are clowning on the Saints for going after him. But if I'm being honest, the kind of system that the Cowboys is going to want to run, I can honestly see Trevor Etienne absolutely feasting in, which is not great for me as a Panthers fan. And they bring in Caden Ellis. Sorry for Falcons fans, you have to watch your pride and joy Caden Ellis go to the Saints. But Caden Ellis is a great blitzing linebacker. He's going to basically play the role of Demario Davis, who's now at the New York Jets. We'll talk about in just a second. But it's such a great move. I hate those top three. Ryan Wright, I got no clue. I honestly can't tell you. But what I can tell you is that Noah Fant is just okay. And then John Ridgway, I remember from Arkansas, and that's it. But again, those top three moves by the Saints, those are really great moves, and I'm really upset they made those moves because I was thinking that, it's pretty easy. The Panthers are going to be winning the NFC South, especially in the offseason, but those are some really daggone good moves. Now the Giants. Obviously, this was one of the talking points that I had last time. I was talking was about how we don't quite know yet who was going to be re-signed. Was it going to be Wanda Robinson? Was it going to be Alan Miner? And it ended up being Alan Miner, who, again, I like a lot. He's a great right tackle. Signed to a 3-year, $39 million deal. That's great. You have 2 booking tackles for your rookie QB. That is amazing. Obviously, let Wanda Robinson leave. But in his place, you sign Isaiah Likely to a 3-year deal. So you have 2 great tight ends with him and Theo Johnson. You bring in Tremaine Edmonds, so you bring in a great linebacker that now you're not that's one of the ones I was kind of concerned about because, yes, you did re-sign Michael McFadden, but now you have both your starting linebackers where I was very concerned. I was like, if it's 5, they definitely go Sonny Styles. But now I'm like, well, you don't really have to because you got 2 decent linebackers, and it's not the biggest need that you had on your team. Greg Newsome, I think, is a great move. I love Ar'Darius Washington as well. Again, as I was talking before. Ar'Darius Washington, former TCU safety. I wanted him last year with the Panthers. He re-signed with the Ravens, and now he is leaving with John Harbaugh going to the Giants. So there's a lot of them, like pressure card. Jason Sanders, like I said, he's going to the Giants. So leaving Miami, going to the Giants. But again, I really like the re-signing of Jermaine Elaminer. Now, I will say this: why, why in the world, Jets, Giants, do you want to punish your fans? Again, I know like this New Jersey, New York, whatever, but for the Giants specifically, why did you re-sign Evan Neal? You know good and well that Evan Neal does not want to be as a New York Giant because he even like talk. I mean, like some of the stuff has been going on the last couple of years. Like the media hates him, the fans don't like him, see him as a massive bust. He already has some toxic feelings for the fans as well. Again, I don't know why we bring him back, but I was hoping that they would separate because that's probably the best for them. But it is what it is. So again, Evan Neal being re-signed by the Giants, that one is wild. All right, Jets. Um, I don't hate it. I get what they're doing. I They're moving to a new defense, the 3-4 defense. That's why they've made some of the trades they're making. Like I said, they brought in Devontae Sweat after they traded Jermaine Johnson away. But Joseph Osai, I think this will be overpaid. You're hoping that he thrives, but he did not thrive because he was injured and also wasn't all that good for the Bengals. Demario Davis. I love Demario Davis. I think he's an amazing linebacker. He's also like 37. So again, a 2-year deal for a person who's like 37, 38 years old is kind of crazy, especially in the linebacker position. But he does get to come back to the Jets, homecoming for him, and it also is nice because it helps kind of develop the people behind him when you have a veteran like Demario Davis. Dylan Parham, I think he's solid. David Onyemata, I do like David Onyemata. He's been like he's one of those free agent signings that you constantly see that's just like he's gonna have some kind of impact. He's gonna have like a play here and there that's gonna make like the fans really like him. That's what like David Onyemata. I think David Onyemata I think is a great pickup for the Jets. Kingsley Egbinare, I'm not big on him at all. I'm honestly not. So the like 1-year deal I think is fine. Nashawn Wright, I'm half surprised, half not of his cost. I'm like, that's kind of cheap. And then I'm like, well, if he didn't really have that big of a market, then that makes sense for him only getting a 1-year deal. So hopefully he's like, hey, if I can maybe Nashawn's right. Okay, all right. If I can have some picks for the Jets, I'm gonna get paid. So maybe, just maybe, that is what his thought is. Like, oh well, that's what we're gonna do. K York is not a great kicker, but again, it is what it is. They did trade for Geno Smith, which him coming back to the Jets after uh, his memorable tenure there is interesting. Bringing back, well, not bringing back, but Mika Fitzpatrick being traded by the Dolphins for a second time is kind of wild. Speaking of second time, if by somehow, some way, Geno Smith with the Jets leads the Jets to the number one overall pick, Geno Smith will be the first quarterback to lead two different teams in back-to-back years to the number one overall pick. Just wanted to say that. Just wanted to say that. But it is what it is. All right, now Brees Hall. Brees Hall got a franchise tag, of course. Of course, he kept talking about how like, hey, it looks like a lot of money's been flowed around in the Jets organization, which it is. And unfortunately, he's not getting it yet. Um, the other ones I'm not really too concerned about. I'm not paying attention to Jawan Briggs, unfortunately, but hopefully he's good. Jelani Woods sounds familiar off the top of my head. I can't think of the top of my head who Jelani Woods is, but again, Brees Hall, hopefully, keywords hopefully, will get a deal soon and maybe just possibly be able to have a long-term contract once he sees who the quarterback could be. Especially if they just get the first overall pick, it could be Arch Manning. Now, Philadelphia Eagles. I do like not re-signing, but I do like getting Tariq Woolen. I think that Rick Woolen, obviously never a number one, but you pair him with Quinyon Mitchell, who's going to be falling the number one option. Cooper DeJesus is an absolute stud, especially when you have to put him in the slot. So you have, right now, you have Quinyon Mitchell, you have You have Tariq Woolen, and you have Cooper DeJean. I think it's a really, really solid cornerback room. So I really like that for them. Obviously, re-signing Jordan Davis is huge because he is a huge impact for that not Giants, for the Eagles team, especially once um, Jalen Carter went down. But signing him now is huge because the prices are going to keep on going up and up and up. So signing them soon makes sense. Now, Steelers. Three moves I like. One, obviously getting number two option for Michael Pittman. You got two huge wide receivers, very decent. Now, Michael Pittman is definitely not the kind of crash out that I would see normally with Steelers wide receivers. So if somehow, some way that Michael Pittman turns into a crash out, that would be the biggest heel turn I've ever seen in my whole entire life. But I love that for Michael Pittman. He also gets a renewed deal because of it. Very good on him. Jamel Dean becoming a cornerback number two, pairing him up with Joey Porter Jr. I think it's a great move by him. Not only does he get paid 3 years, $36 million. Obviously, kind of changing with how much is actually going to be, but it's a great move for him because he actually has great pass rush, consistent pass rush that he hasn't had with the Buccaneers. He has a great partner because he's kind of lost that partner since he lost Carlton Davis. So now he has that with Joey Porter Jr. And I think he fits the mold of a Pittsburgh Steelers. I do like Mel Dean to the Steelers. Obviously, biased, I'm an Auburn fan, but I will say that I do think he's a really good, doing a really good job. Rico Dowdle obviously worked with Mike McCarthy 2 years ago when he was in Dallas, so obviously has connections there. He's going to be a starter for the Steelers, so good on him for hopefully finding himself a nice little home. Other moves, Darnell Savage not really huge on. Cameron Johnson not really huge on. Cameron Hayward getting a massive extension, good for him. Sonny Samuel Jr. His career is kind of up in the air, but who knows? Cole Holcomb, I'm okay on, and again, I'm not really too big. I mean, I like Jack Driscoll, obviously Auburn guy, but I'm not too thrilled about it. But again, it's okay draft class, not draft class, free agency class. Now this one is surprising. This one's surprising. One good, one bad. I'll start with the bad. Explain to me, 49ers, what could you possibly see in Lowe? Vidarian Lowe was atrocious. Atrocious for the Packers, not Packers, but for the Patriots 2 years ago. So the entire reason why they took Will Campbell in the first place, because he was that bad left tackle. So why in the world are we paying him like $6 million? I mean, obviously, like the guarantees are way less, but still, I still think it's overpay. So it is what it is. But bringing in Mike Evans, that's huge. Huge, 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 huge. Yes, injuries concerns is always going to be a problem, but are you telling me right now that there's a possibility you have Mike Evans and Chris McCaffrey, George Kittle eventually, and then hopefully Ricky Kurosawa will continue to have a pretty good season. Again, that's an awesome, awesome weapons for Brock Purdy. The one that I'm surprised about, because it just happened, probably I would say about 2 hours ago. I mentioned this before with when I was talking about the Cowboys. Osa Digazua going to the 49ers is massive because now you have interior pressure. Now, pass rush situations, especially when Nick Bosa gets back. Nick Bosa paired up with Osa Digazua, and hopefully you get like some more edge rush help, like I said, with Mikal Williams or whoever it might be, instead of just being a very solid run defender. But that is a nasty pass rush if they're on the same exact side. I don't understand why the Cowboys traded him, but it's a great move by the 49ers. Outside of that, they're able to re-sign Ed Pinheiro, so they were able to keep him for the long run. Good for Eddie. And also good for consistency for the 49ers. Jake Tongs, like I said, he's able to have his start because he's going to be starting the season with George Kittle being out. So good for him getting a 2-year deal. And that's about it. Seattle, no sign but retained. Again, I like what Seattle's doing because they're making sure, hey, we are saving up our money for whenever we have to pay Devon Witherspoon and also JSN. So again, makes perfect sense why they're not making a lot of moves in free agency besides just retaining. But paying Rashid Shaheed 3 years, 51 million, obviously as the guarantees way less, but still that looks crazy. Josh Jobe, obviously don't know the exact numbers, but that's a great move by Seattle to make sure to keep at least another cornerback because, like I said, your cornerback room kind of very much diminished when you lose into Rick One, and also Josh Jobe, you got to kind of retain Josh Jobe, which is good for you. Jake Bobo, obviously, love Jake Bobo, so get bring him back. Bringing Drake Thomas actually had a pretty decent Super Bowl, so good for Drake Thomas. And that's about it. Like I said, other ones I'm not like too fond of. And as I'm trying to move on through, I got 3 more. So Tampa Bay, last one for the NFC South. Tampa Bay's had an interesting one. Obviously, we just talked about how they lost Mike Evans, but they did bring in Alex Anzalone, which they desperately needed to because their linebacker room is atrocious. Now, I don't think that Alex Anzalone really moves the needle for that much for me, but again, it's okay. Jake Browning, maybe he's an okay backup, but I'm not like hooping and hollering for it. Kenneth Gainwell, he's a good compliment, honestly. He's a good compliment. You're losing Sean Tucker, bringing in Kenneth Gainwell, him being paired with Bucky Irvin could be kind of dangerous, but I just don't know. Like, oh no, they did bring back Sean Tucker. My bad. That's why I messed up on that. And so did they lose? They must have lost Rashad White because otherwise it makes no sense why they would sign and make sure they have 5 on contract running backs instead of going for a cheaper option. But again, it's not my prerogative. Cade Otton re-signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Again, Cade Otton's a solid tight end. I'm not going to say he's amazing, but again, he's okay. Tennessee Titans, huge spenders, and that's what they should be. Same as I think for the Raiders. Wanda Robinson, he reunites with Brian Daboll. So again, 4 years, $70 million. Again, only 38 of that is guaranteed. So again, that contract looks a lot bigger than it actually is. John Franklin Myers, I will say I think it might be a little bit overpaid, but good Lord, does he fit? Putting John Franklin Myers right next to Jeffrey Simmons on 3rd down is going to cause a lot of havoc up in the middle. So again, if Jermaine Johnson can just be decent, and then whoever else they sign, which who else they drafted 4 overall, that's going to be a dangerous defensive line. Alontae Taylor, he's a great nickel corner. So again, utilizing him probably for the Tennessee Titans is going to be huge for Saw's defense. Bellinger, I'm okay on. Flott, I'm okay on. Jordan Elliott, Tommy Townsend. Tommy Townsend, I just kind of like. He's a great punter. Cordell Volson, I am not confident with him at all. And like I said, bringing in Mitch Trubisky is fine. Like I said, being a backup to Cam Ward, but I'm not feeling it great. Like I said, Solomon Thomas being traded. Why do we care? I don't care. And then Joey Sly bringing in, like I said, he's going to have some kicking competition. We don't have kick competition. That was a point of my bad. So there's no kicker. Like I said, big guard Joey Sly. So again, not overly thrilled, but again, it's just okay. And the last one was the Washington Commanders. Now, Washington Commanders, they were big spinners as well. They got Odafe Owe. Obviously, when he was with the Ravens, he had some okay seasons, and then he absolutely broke out when he went to the Chargers. You're hoping that, hey, Odafe Owe is going to be able to do that for us as well. Bring that passion, bring that juice. We need it right now. So he got 4 years. Only 68 of it is guaranteed. Leo Chenal, I love that move. 3 years, only 12.4 of it is guaranteed. That's amazing because Leo Chenal is a very talented linebacker who I think is just kind of scratching the surface. I think he's able to kind of be able to put himself, especially with being worked with Robert Saleh. I think he could possibly, like I said, get himself maybe a Pro Bowl. Who knows? I mean, I think he's a very talented linebacker. Tim Settle, I think he's solid. Again, I don't know about the 3-year, $24 million, but again, that's not my problem. Chig Okonkwo, he is a very, very versatile tight end. 3 years, don't know quite the money just yet, but I'm okay with it. Again, I think that's an interesting little spot. Him basically being the Zach Ertz, because Zach Ertz is basically not. I don't think he's technically retired, but he is, you know, going to be. What's the word I'm looking for? He is technically going to be old and probably not going to be re-signed. Mika Robinson, actually pretty decent nickel corner. Maybe he's looking for it to be a little bit more. Nick Cross was decent. Kellen Jason was pretty decent. So again, is Kellen Jason like a lightning in the bottle situation, or who knows? Again, they spent a lot of money. They retained Larry Tunsil for a 2-year extension. Marcus Mariota for extension, Andrew Wiley for extensions. Again, I'm doing a lot of extensions, and Nick Allegretti. Again, a lot of extensions to kind of make sure they kind of keep a lot of talent in. But I mean, like, I'm not going to hate on it, but I'm not moved by a lot of these moves. Like I said, obviously, the Rams one moves me because, like I said, bringing in an absolute superstar in Trent McDuffie. But again, this is kind of like a small free agency. There's not a lot really to say about it. But again, that's about it. So I'm kind of going into is the going over free agency moves. Also, there'll be some more coming along, but nothing like massive, I would say. I mean, outside like the Max Crosby trade, which we know is going to happen eventually, but I'm not waiting until either not February. Not even waiting until like Friday or Saturday to figure it out. So again, I'm going to kind of go on here, kind of talk about it. And I'm already tired. Goodness gracious. But thanks so much for watching. Like I said, if you're especially watching for later on, let me know what you think